Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear. You might be asking yourself, didn't you just open a box in that same shirt with your hair looking the same? Yes, it was only a couple of minutes ago, but something great happened today. Not only did I unbox my Benchmade Mini Freak from Rivers Edge Cutlery, but I actually placed an order from Rivers Edge Cutlery the day before they announced that the Mini Freak was available, and that order showed up at the same time. Now, let me say, Rivers Edge Cutlery is fantastic at getting orders out quickly. One of my favorite things about them, and there are a lot of things I love about Rivers Edge Cutlery, is that it seems to be generally within a couple hours. If they're open when I place my order, I get a update email saying that my order is shipped. So both of these boxes, even though they were placed a day apart, were shipped within a couple of hours of when I placed the order. But this one sat at the USPS facility for a day while the other one got scanned in, and they ended up coming in tandem. So I got both of them today, which is I am not mad about. I like getting a bunch of stuff in one day. So in here, this is going to be an interesting one. I try to every month get a couple of things to just try out and sometimes broaden my horizons or try something new, or I have fun. Oh, there's more tape I need to cut. I just try to have fun with gear lately and expand my understanding of what's out there. And one thing some of you may have noticed is that I own quite a few Spydercos. At the moment I have 6 or 7. I always seem to have at least 5, and usually they're Golden Colorado Spydercos. The most common Spydercos for me to own, or at least to hang on to, but I try a lot of Taichung Spydercos as well, and I really like the knives that come out of there. But I have actually never owned, personally, a Spyderco knife made in China or a Spyderco knife made in Japan. I've held them. It's not that I've never even seen them or touched them. I've held a few. I've used 1 or 2 because one of my coworkers at a past job carried a Tenacious every single day, and that was his go-to knife for years, and he loved it and swore by it. So I have experienced them a little bit, but I've never owned one, and I don't want to sound pompous or pretentious in any way, but I kind of have felt like I'm a little bit above them, and just the way that I enjoy and collect knives and my threshold of what I'm willing to spend on knives to get a certain amount of quality out of them, they've just never been all that appealing to me. But I realized it's certainly possible that I could be missing out on something. Recently, I tried my Native 5 S90V carbon fiber, the fluted carbon fiber version of that knife, and Rivers Edge Cutlery, you guys the best. And when I opened myself up to trying that knife, because I previously had not liked backlocks, I found that I still don't really like backlocks, but that knife was so good that it is a permanent collection piece for me at this point. I was missing out on that knife. Because it was a backlock, I had closed myself off to it, and I shouldn't have. It's a great knife. So in here, I decided to try a Japanese Spyderco, a Chinese Spyderco, and I also got one wild card thing because Rivers Edge Cutlery just got a bunch of that item in. I'm not going to spoil it. You might have seen it as it's pulling out of the box. We'll see. But let's go through the knives first. So this is a Spyderco Salt 2 Wharncliffe plain edge. Now, you might think to yourself, Jake, if you're going to try a Japanese Spyderco, you should try the Delica or the Hinderer. This is, from what I understand, basically a Delica, and it's a little more specialized. The Salt series of knives are the same handle scale material. I think they're even the same platform as a Delica. I honestly am not the person you should be watching if you're trying to learn more about these. I'm trying to learn more about them because I've never paid attention to them. But from what I understand, this is basically a Wharncliffe Delica, but with H1 steel, which is not an edge retention focused steel. Let's get that right out of the way. But it's a corrosion resistance focused steel. So this is like a super specialized knife. And if I'm going to have a plasticky backlock knife, I need it to be super suited to a very particular task, because otherwise I'm never going to carry the thing. I just won't. With the other knives that I own, a Delica is never going to make it in my pocket. But if I'm going fishing or boating and I want a super corrosion resistant knife and don't want to bring my $300 quiet carry Waypoint, then this all of a sudden becomes a really cool option. And it's a Spyderco. I love Spydercos. It's got a hole. Holes are greater than studs. And although it's a backlock, this to me, the thought process in my head, you've just seen me open it, I have no experiences with it yet. This to me is a knife that makes a lot of sense as a very specific tool. And I think this version of this knife is the best case for me using it as a tool in a specific application like that. So let's check it out. I really like that blade shape. That is sweet. Got a hollow ground Wharncliffe. You can see it's H1 steel, Seki City, Japan. Spyderco H1, it says on this side of the blade. Yeah, so the ergos are really good for my hand. Finger grooves can be a little bit of a dangerous thing. This handle is definitely shaped, but these finger grooves fit my hand really well. The only jimping that I can really feel on here is right there on the thumb ramp. Oof. All right, I'm gonna do a separate first impressions video on this because I've got a couple things to unbox here, but this is really cool. I dig it. It's a backlock, which you know by now is not my favorite lock type. I wish I could Spidey flick them. I wish they were more fidgetable, but like I said, this will foreseeably be kind of just looked at as a tool. So that's rad. I dig it more than I thought I would. All right, so there's one knife out of the way. Let's get the other knife out of the way. So this is, which side makes the most sense to show you? I guess this side. It's a Tenacious. It's a regular old Tenacious. It's as tenacious as a Tenacious can be. Plain edge, satin blade, black scales, ships tip down. This is what I would consider Spyderco's realistic entry point. Some people, I guess, would start with like a Delica, stuff like that. But most people I know who aren't die-hard knife guys, who aren't like in the hobby, who just carry a Spyderco because they want to carry a knife, a lot of them start with this and end with this. This is just what they arrive at and what they carry. You can buy these, from what I understand, in like some sporting goods stores. They're available online from a ton of places. And if you're not a steel snob like me, if you're not concerned about only buying knives that are made in the US like some people are, then this is, by all accounts, a great option. The only experiences I've ever had with one have been with that coworker who I already mentioned, and he loved his, really, really liked it, was all about it, and it worked for him. So it's worth giving a shot to, because I don't want to seem like I'm above a certain price range of knives. Even though my preferences have gotten more expensive than some, they're certainly less expensive than others, but even though my preferences can be a little bit costly at this point in the knife realm, I still appreciate a good budget piece. And I would consider a $50 knife a budget piece. It's 8CR13 MOV steel, and it's made in China, but it's got nice G10, skeletonized liners. It's a solid liner lock with reliable lockup. The action right now out of the box, I'll say, is a little stiff, but let's see. I can almost Spidey flick it all the way out. It just doesn't quite lock up, but it's close. It's right there. The ergos are pretty good. Not dreamy ergos, but pretty good. You get a great Spyderco full flat grind with pretty thin behind the edge geometry. It's actually quite thin behind the edge on this one. And it's a decent EDC blade stock. It's not too thick, not too thin. This is a knife that makes a lot of sense for people who want to carry a good, reliable knife, but aren't caught up in it like I am. So it's worth it to me to experience one, give it a fair shot, and see what it's all about. So this is the Tenacious, and it is just the regular plain version. They come coated, they come in semi-serrated if you want. I think some places have done exclusive runs of them with like different colored G10 and stuff like that. I don't know if there have been other blade steels along the line. Probably at some point someone's done an exclusive or there's been a sprint run or something, knowing Spyderco, but I've given very, very, very little attention to any knife that's come out of the China factory, Tenacious included. So I'm not, again, I'm learning here. So don't come to me looking for information just yet. Maybe by the time I've learned a lot about it, I can help teach some others, but it's worth it to me to try it. So there's the Tenacious. And let's see what our last item is. This is a Hinderer. It's not a Hinderer knife. Don't get too excited, but it's a Hinderer Investigator Pen. And this one, I think is called the Battlefield Pickup. Yeah, BFPU. This is a stainless steel version of the knife, or of the pen, I should say. This is not a knife. This is a stainless steel, kind of a tactical pen, but it's a little bit smaller than some tactical pens. I didn't want a giant beefy pen that I wouldn't want to carry. These do come in an aluminum version, as well as some titanium versions, I believe. Let's see. Rad. I don't know how this works, to be honest. I think I screw the cap off. Yeah, there we go. So on this side, we've got a pen, which from what I understand is pretty easily refillable. I think it takes a fairly standard ink cartridge. And if the pen cap is screwed off, then we've actually got a pretty serious point down here. And it feels, I don't know if I'm crazy, but the way that absolute tip feels, it feels like it's probably a glass breaker. This is something, again, that I don't know much about, but there was a thought process behind trying this. Lately, I've found myself carrying the one EDC pen that I have more frequently than I used to. It's just been making it in pocket more often because I find myself writing more things down for whatever reason lately. But I bought my, what's it called, Urban Survival Gear Tie Scribe probably 2 years ago now. And I've really enjoyed that pen. And like I said, I've used it quite a bit. I've gone through a couple of ink refills on it already, and it's been reliable, and I've enjoyed it. And when I bought that pen, I bought it, you guys might laugh at this, but the idea behind it, the philosophy, was that I would just buy one pen and be done, and I'd have one great EDC pen. And much like many aspects of knife collecting, pens appear to be a little bit of a slippery slope, because the more that I've used that one, the more I've justified in my own head. It would be nice to have an option of something else to carry every now and then. So this guy was 85 bucks, little less expensive than my titanium Tie Scribe pen. But this one is also, oops, I don't want to lose that O-ring. This one is also a little bit more tactical. In fact, I'd say it's quite a bit more tactical. This feels like again, it's not very big, but in a pinch, if I needed to hit somebody with that tip, that would be quite a motivator. It's frankly quite sharp. And aesthetically, this is pretty different from the other pen I have. It's smaller, so it's going to fit easier in pockets that the Tie Scribe doesn't. And so I justified it to myself. It's time to have another pen. I still don't think this is going to open up a whole gamut of other pens. If a bunch of you want to see me start reviewing a bunch of pens, then maybe I'll consider it. I do find pens interesting and fun and different, and they're obviously useful. Even in 2020, I still write things down often. So this will be a fun one to try out. I've known several people who've owned these and spoken very highly of them. I really like the size. I wasn't sure if I've held one of these, it's been a long time, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect in terms of like the ergos on it. I'm a lefty, by the way. You'll have to pardon my backwards wiring here, but this feels pretty good. Nothing about it seems too sharp. Yeah, there'll be a proper first impressions coming on just this, since this is an unboxing video and it's already going pretty long with these three things, but this is cool. This is the Investigator pen in Battlefield Pickup. It's a stainless steel version. It's pretty cool how it's kind of like flame anodized, but it just seems kind of random. Like there's one bluish spot here, and everything else is kind of like this smoky bronze-ish. I really like the way it's come out, because I don't generally like flame anodizing when they like put designated lines and they try to make it look too neat. I think it should look kind of like it got too hot. Anyway, this is pretty cool. I like it quite a bit, so I'm excited to see what it's all about. And it looks like you can actually swap this tip, which I think makes sense. I feel like I've seen people put different tips on there, so maybe that's something to look into as well. See if I can't accessorize my accessory a little bit. Anywho, this has been fun. So I've got the Investigator Pen, the Tenacious, and the Salt 2. What is it called? Oh, this is embarrassing. It is called the, yeah, Salt 2, Warncliffe. Anyway, I got these 3 things. And thanks again to Rivers Edge Cutlery. They're awesome. They've been super supportive of me as a channel, and so I love placing orders with. If you've been paying attention, this is probably, I think I've gotten 3 orders from Rivers Edge Cutlery in the last week, just in the last week. So they definitely get my business because I prefer them drastically over many of the other retailers. I'm going to do a video soon on who my favorite retailers are and why in the knife community, because I think a lot of people don't know that a lot of these retailers exist, and they just go to the big guys because the big guys are there. Not that there's anything wrong with the big guys, but anywho, this has been sweet. Thanks again, Rivers Edge Cutlery, and there's plenty more to come on each of these guys. You'll be seeing a fair bit of them here in the next week or so. So look forward to that. I know I am, and this has been fun. I'll talk to you soon.